Hi everybody, my name is Suze and I work with women to help them find balance between their internal masculine and feminine energies so that they can have lives that feel really emotionally fulfilling, full of love and connection. So I hadn't planned on talking about this today, but I kind of found myself going somewhere in the weekend videos that I did, and I was like, you know what? Let's take a pit stop and talk about this one particular subject, because this is something that I picked up years ago when working with clients and having healing sessions, and it was really interesting to me. They would be telling me a story and we'd be kind of working through healing a particular scenario or event that was happening in their lives. And I would ask a question. Whenever I am asking a question, this is part of me. I know we've talked about human design. I am a projector in human design. So for me, I'm always looking for the deeper truth. I'm always looking for the energies that are underlying the current physical situation. And I do not like to assume. I learned that many, many, many years ago about how often we assume and we don't even realize we're assuming, and then it leads to misunderstanding and conflict, and you already know. And so when I'm asking questions in my friendships, in my relationships with my clients, whoever the situation may be, questions are for creating a deeper understanding of what's happening with the person, right? It's never about questioning someone in a shame-based way of, well, why did you do that? It's never that. Questions are meant to be curiosity driven. Questions are meant to be they're very intimate. It's to create a deeper intimacy with someone of understanding how they tick, how they process information, how they interpret communication, or how they interpret what someone else did that then affected them and made them feel, or they allowed themselves to feel, a particular way, right? And so I ask a lot of questions with clients on client calls because I need to really understand where they're coming from that is getting them to say what they're saying in this current moment, right? And so asking questions really helps me trace things back even to childhood and see emotional cycles and emotional dysfunction that happened even way back in childhood, or maybe in a previous relationship or marriage or something like that, that then had them develop this story and this identity in their head that has brought them to this current viewing, I should say, brought them to the current scenario and how they're interpreting the current scenario. And so for me, asking questions, that's what is happening is, let me trace this back to dysfunction somewhere down here that now you've created this identity that brought you to perceiving a current event in this particular way. And in asking questions, it's really interesting to see how people respond or react to being asked questions. And it's particularly interesting because I remember myself as a child, I felt that for a variety of reasons in my life, looking back, and of course I did not realize this at the time, but looking back, I was in a very instinctual, I need to protect myself kind of energy. And so I was constantly in a very defensive state when I was younger. And I intuitively knew that I had to protect myself and that I was in environments that were not at all safe for me, okay? And so I was very wise beyond my years, really. But looking back at that, I recognized that when I was a child, if someone asked me a question, I would instantly get defensive. Like that defensive energy would come out and I would shut down. And I did not like it. It made me very uncomfortable when people asked me questions, because I was so afraid of information, if I gave information, that it would be used against me. Because that is what had happened clearly so often in my life. So unraveling this whole thing with how it felt to me to be asked questions when I was not able to handle questions, or I perceived questions as a bad thing because then bad things would happen to me, and that people were asking questions for the wrong reasons, really. I created this identity and I created this thought around when people ask me questions, run. basically, right? Like run, danger, danger, danger. And so it's interesting to me how, in working particularly with clients and asking questions, clearly there is a trust here. There is some foundational base level of trust because they are clearly opening up and sharing an aspect of their lives with me and getting intimate with the intimate details of their life and trusting me to help heal and guide them in a more whole, integrated place, right? A healed place, and removing the wounded identity. So there is some level of trust there. But even with that, I see shame come up so much in this type of a dynamic. And it's interesting because I'm recognizing that people will be in a space of shame and not even know it. I tapped on that idea very briefly, I forget, on one of the, I think it was Saturday's video, the astrological forecast. I touched on it, and it's very reflective and of a message I had last week of one of my popular videos from last week, what your anxiety is trying to tell you. I titled it that, what your anxiety is trying to tell you. And the concept how I recognize people are in an energetic state of anxiety a lot of times, and they don't even recognize that they're in anxiety. And I mean, we can all identify like the big obvious states of anxiety. And, oh, I'm feeling anxious or nervous right now. But we don't understand the day-to-day little nuanced little spaces of anxiety, and those little nuanced details of life, those are the defining moments that change everything, because those are the moments, if you don't recognize you're in a state of anxiety, that right there is where you're going to self-sabotage. If you're not aware, you're going to. Because to get yourself out of the state of anxiety, you're gonna go to the instant gratification. You're gonna go to the quick hit that gets you out of the state of anxiety. So if you're not even aware that you're in a state of anxiety, if you're not even aware, how are you gonna find your way out in the healed, higher self kind of a way? You can't, because you don't even know where you are. You can't chart a path if you don't know the start and the finish. You need to know where your location, your starting location is. It's the same thing with the shame. I recognized this years ago in working with clients. They were in a space of shame and they didn't even know it. So what I want to say today, all of that is background information to get to the meat of the message today. What I am saying is, let's recognize when we're in a state of shame, just like the anxiety. Because if you're having the energy of shame coursing through your body and you're not even recognizing you're in a state of shame, what is shame? Self-diminishment. I need to quiet this thing down because it's unacceptable. Or I need to keep this thing secret because it's not allowed to be seen, or someone will look at me the wrong way, or someone will perceive me in a negative way that I don't want to be perceived in, right? Shame is, to me, like the biggest sin of them all, honestly. Shame is the biggest sin of them all, in my opinion, because the minute you have shame, you're never, ever, ever going to choose your authentic truth. You can't. You literally cannot. So I have a few little clues I'm going to drop here in this video. I took some notes to keep myself on track with this and make sure I covered this, because these are the important things here. When you are being more self-aware and learning to recognize maybe when you're in a state or have the energy of shame in you and you may not recognize it, here are some little tips to recognize the shame. If you are speaking with someone, or even with yourself, if you are thinking and speaking and processing something with yourself, and you find that you have to explain, I need to explain what I meant here. I need them to really understand what I'm really trying to say. I don't want to be misunderstood. It's very important for me to not be misunderstood right now. I need them to really understand exactly what I'm saying, and I don't want them to think I'm saying this other thing over here that maybe they're going to take it this way. No, I need them to take it this way. If you're doing that in communication, there's some shame under all of that. There's some shame. The need, the like overwhelming urge and need to be understood because you were misunderstood in the past, or someone projected their agenda, their wounds, and their story on you, and therefore punished you, like I was saying, that kind of a thing. In those scenarios in my childhood when I was punished for things and I was never allowed to explain what actually happened, and sometimes I was punished for things that I still to this day don't think I actually did anything wrong, but I was perceived as being wrong because of their agenda, because of their stories, because of their wounding. And so that was projected on me, and then therefore I was punished for not living to their standards of what they felt was right and wrong in their sense of the reality, that I actually don't align with that reality. I have a different reality. And so in not aligning with their reality, I was not allowed to explain or advocate for myself, and I was punished. So then, like I said, that grows into that identity of feeling like you have to really over explain yourself, feeling this excitement and need to over explain because someone else projected their agendas and wounds on you. Now there's another way, and this is a little bit more tricky. There's another way that shame manifests itself, and it's around the things that we think we have to control. And what is control? When you really peel it back, it's holding back. It's a not giving freely in some way because you think you're not supposed to. Or you think if I give something, somehow I'm giving energy in some way to a situation that it's going to be misconstrued, or it's going to be used against me, or I'm going to be taken advantage of, or something bad is going to happen if I give in this scenario. I'm going to be perceived in the wrong way, or they're going to take advantage of me, or they're going to think poorly of me, or something somehow, somewhere down the road. Rejection is another one, right? Rejection of, oh, if I pour into this situation, I'm going to end up with disappointment and heartbreak and rejection, so I'm holding back. There's an element of shame in there somewhere. There's an element of shame. We only control when there's shame, and we only hold back when there's shame. So it's kind of funny because it can go both sides of the coin of like over explaining and over giving, but also holding back. And the holding back, that aspect usually comes with the desires and the pleasure aspect. The desires and the pleasure. I pulled this card yesterday and I still have it here for yesterday's video. I'm recording it the same day, but recorded yesterday. The play card. Shame around play, shame around play, shame around pleasure, shame around happiness, shame around fulfillment, emotional fulfillment will cause you to control it or think you need to control it, and therefore hold yourself back from participating in something that could actually bring you a lot of fulfillment, a lot of happiness, a lot of pleasure, a lot of playfulness. It's the other one, persecution. So shame, again, light and dark, shadow and light side. It's about integrating the shadow, letting it come into the light. So whether it is over giving to a scenario by over explaining yourself, or this fear of being misunderstood and therefore having to anxiously give to a scenario to be perceived in the correct way or understood in the correct way, or shame can also be in the withholding and the controlling and the like tampering and kind of holding back of investing in a scenario that actually brings you a lot of happiness and pleasure and joy, because for some reason the fact that you find pleasure in that thing or happiness or joy, someone told you you're not supposed to. That's where the shame comes in. Sorry, I don't think I explained that earlier. You're holding back and not giving and allowing yourself to fully participate in this thing because someone somewhere told you that thing is wrong or made you feel that it was wrong in some way, right? I'm going to leave this video here. I think I said enough for today. If you found value in this message, please do subscribe to my channel to show your support and help support my message, get it out to more and more people. And let me know in the comments if this resonated, if this helped you, if this created clarity for you. That is my hope, that it created some clarity, made you more self-aware. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.